Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Danny Lacrosse, and alongside is James Quinn and Mike Payne. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So Boston Bruins are ongoing to the season. October's past us. It is officially November 2nd. So the Bruins' record is they played 10 games, and they've won 4, and they've lost 3. Now let's get into there's been quite some injuries on the roster so far throughout the month of October. I know David Beck's had major surgery. He's out for at least 8 weeks. Recently had a colon removal. Good luck, David Beck's. Thoughts and prayers to you. I know that's a major surgery, but what do you think of these players, such as David Beck's and many others like David Krejci with the upper body, Adam McQuaid with a broken fibula, Ryan Spooner with the torn adductor, Anton Khudobin with the lower body, so on and so forth. What do you guys think about this so far? It's been a rough start for the Boston Bruins health-wise.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there with that long list. They lost Bergeron for the first 5 games, so we've really yet to see the ceiling with this team because we haven't seen it as a whole, as one unit. To start the season without Bergeron, they looked lost out there. I mean, it's really tough to replace a player like Bergeron's caliber. And right now we're just seeing like who can cut it and who can't. Call-ups like Danton Heinen. Schwartz is in there tonight. Bolesky's going to get a start tonight. He's been a healthy scratch for 3 games. I'm definitely interested to see how they overcome the injuries, but tough hit all the way around when you lose core players like a Backus and a Bergeron and a McQuaid. A leadership end.
Yeah, a lot of top players have been on the injury list so far in October. A lot of people coming up from Providence and showing some potential and showing that they can prove to play in this NHL league. Quinny, do you have any input about this?
Yeah, it's still the Patriots motto. It's next man up. There's no excuses in the NHL. There's no excuses in pro sports. You have to fill in your holes. Injuries happen to every team. The Bruins have got the injury bug worse than some teams right now. But it's about finding in those pieces. I mean, they gave Bolesky a lot of money a couple of years ago. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, step up and be a contributor and as a top 9 forward, go out, dig in the corners, bag some bodies, and hopefully put some pucks in the net. He hasn't had great success since he come to Boston. He was really strong with Anaheim. The year before he hit free agency, he had 22 goals, and he had a strong playoff showing with them. So I'm still hoping that there's more to see out of him, but it's going to be a wait-and-see kind of thing.
Just going off the top of that, you also lost Tuukka Rask for like 3 games.
Yeah, he
had
had
a concussion.
They reported it as a collision, but
right,
concussion.
Got plowed over in practice by Anders Bjork. So, I mean, it's really tough. We haven't seen a lot of it. We got a glimpse of it really in that Vancouver game.
Yeah.
Where they beat him 6-3. I mean, you had Krejci and you had everyone out there. So you had Backus, Krejci, Bergeron. You didn't have Rask in net, but I like what I saw from that game. That was a great game.
Those Khudobin games, though, you did get 5 out of possible 6 points. He didn't look good, though, against Vancouver. He let in a couple softies.
Yeah.
The Bruins were also fortunate recipients of a 5-minute major power play, and they scored 3 goals on it. The Buffalo game, they had a 3-goal lead. They were 3-0 and 4-1. They blew that game, lost in overtime. The Kings game, though, what you got at Khudobin was stellar.
Yeah.
38 saves. This is a strong LA team. They're coming out of the gates hot this year. They seem to be up and down one year. They're winning the Stanley Cup. The next year, they're missing the playoffs. So I think this is they missed the playoffs last year. So this might be a turnaround season for LA. Dustin Brown looks like a new man. It's a really strong team.
Yeah, LA is a talented team. West is always talented. But going back to Anton Khudobin, like he's only played 1 game less than Tuukka Rask, and the stats don't seem too far apart from each other. I mean, the game that they've been balancing the games pretty evenly. But like we said, Tuukka Rask was injured, so the next person had to step up. Also, LA's very talented. Wouldn't pass by me another playoff run. So calling up, certain players, going over news articles, media. Boston Bruins called up several players from Providence, such as Jordan Swartz, 26-year-old Providence Bruin. So far with 5 goals, total of 7 points, and actually, I might have read that wrong. Total of, 5 goals so far. Actually, that was last season. I'm sorry. I did have the this year's stats written down, but what do you think of Jordan Swartz? I know he came from Arizona a couple of years ago. I think he said he hasn't played an official NHL game in two seasons.
That's right. Yeah, he his last stint in the NHL was with Arizona 2 years ago. Gritty guy, kind of plays like a David Backes role. So I think if you have to fill in that spot, he's a good fit there. Another call-up I really like is Danton Heinen.
Okay.
I think he's played 4 games with like 5 points, I want to say. Don't check me on that, but I like he had the 2 games in he had 2 goals in the San Jose game.
Yeah, wasn't that his NHL debut goal?
Yep. And I also think the last game that they played, he was one of the they were in a tough game against Columbus, and he was one of the standouts in my eyes. I mean, he was buzzing around out there. It's good to see players come up and they see an opportunity and they take advantage of it.
Yeah. Jordan Swartz has been a career minor league hockey player thus far. What you'll get out of him remains to be seen at this level. New system, different coach. Maybe he does improve, and this is the opportunity he needs. I don't see a very high ceiling on him, but if he can fill in some way and be effective in a bottom 6 role, that'd be big for this team.
All right. Yeah. And there was another brought up to the roster. I think it was a goalie.
Zane Mcintyre?
Yeah.
Yes, Zane Mcintyre. He was brought up. I think it was for tonight's game, I believe. I don't know if.
Yeah, he got called up emergency basis.
Yeah. What do you think about him coming up to moving up?
Yeah, his first couple starts in the NHL were rough. He's had good numbers in Providence. I think he's a North Dakota product. From what I saw, I mean, it was his first few NHL games, so I mean, there's going to be bumps with that. But
Yeah.
I think he has potential. I think his AHL numbers speak highly. So I'd like to see him get a few starts.
Yeah, give him a couple of shots.
The Bruins, I think, as an organization, are confident in Zane. They were willing to let Subban walk for nothing, so they believe that Zane Mcintyre can either be eventually an NHL backup or possibly a starter somewhere. He's had a good year so far in Providence, but the NHL is a different ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely. The NHL, it's always up and down with them, coming from the minor league up to the NHL. So I was going over the stats for the Bruins, and 3 players obviously came to mind in the stats. Obviously Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, and Andrzej Borsch. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So 8 so far with Brad Marchand, goals 8, assists 5, games played 10. Pastrnak 6 goals, assists 5, obviously games played 10. Majork's 3 goals, 4 assists, and 10 games played. What do you think of these top stats players so far this season? I know Brashon's one of those top players. When he's hot, and when he's not, you can tell right away.
No surprise there from Brad Marchand. 36 goals last year. 30
39.
Plus, 39, excuse me.
Didn't he make his 200th goal or something? There was some sort of stat going on with Brad Marchand. Is it 200th goal of the NHL? His NHL career, or
possibly, yeah. I think I did see something like that. He hit some kind of milestone in that
Yeah.
game again in Columbus. One of the names that stands out to me is Anders Bjork, a rookie coming out of Notre Dame, first year in the NHL. He's looked good. He hasn't looked great. You're going to take your bumps with that, but highly skilled kid. Has a knack for scoring goals, so I like to see that. Another name up there is Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
He's got it's all right. He's got I believe 8 points, so I think he's got a goal
Yeah.
and 7 assists, so he's right up there as well. Also in his rookie year, we did get that glimpse last year in the playoffs. It's interesting. A lot of websites I've been reading have him as a Calder finalist, so it'll be interesting how long they carry him out. I mean, that game in Columbus, it went into overtime, but Charlie McAvoy logged 29 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's a lot to weigh on a kid, but I like his chances when he plays 29 minutes a night. I think he's gonna.
But like what Quinny said last episode, he's still a young kid. He's got to adjust to this more games played in the NHL than college. He's still got to adjust to the system, and like I guess he's got to work his way up with the minutes. But he's a talented kid so far this month. A lot of potential, high up on the stats, looking pretty good, and Andre Bjork doing pretty well himself as a rookie from Notre Dame. These kids just got to build it up with the playing time. And, the more the coach plays them, the better they'll get as a player. You can correct me on that, but
One of the things with Bjork is he's played a lot better since Bergeron has returned to the lineup. Patrice Bergeron's somebody that's gonna make any player on the ice better. Marchand, 39 goals last year. It's what you expect out of him. And then Pasternak, sticking to my guns, he's gonna score 40 goals this year.
yeah, the kid's it's in his prime. He's coming to his prime. He's a young kid. Lot to see from David Pasternak down the road. So, and hopefully he sticks with. I know he just recently signed a contract, but like to see more out of the kid. I like him. I like him a lot.
It's always tough when you sign that big contract, so
Yeah.
you're under
a lot of
the thumb
pressure.
right there. Yeah. So it's time to put some pucks in the net, David.
Yeah. Let's go to the. I don't have it in the outline, but Bruce Cassidy, first month as a second-year coach, actually for a full season. What do you think so far? According to Bruce Cassidy and the way he's working with players and
I think last game spoke volumes for the kind of coach he is. Like, he had no problem. He saw Tim Schaller having a better game. He bumped Tim Schaller up to that second line. He gave Tim Schaller more minutes than a lot of more than Bjork, I want to say. They took Pasternak off that second line, but they bumped him up with Marchand and Bergeron, which I thought was good because you were in desperate need of a goal, down 3-0. I thought it was good. So they got down in the first period. He's mixed up the lines a little bit. They got in the corners. They showed more fight, and they ended up coming back tying that game. They lost it in a shootout, but it's a tough road game against a good team, and that's the kind of things you want to see is them have that fight in them.
They've been having quite a few overtime games, and then just losing right on that overtime. Or it's they're up like maybe 3 or 2 points, and then someone comes back, and I feel like they end up losing. It's just been this past month. It's been like a couple of games here and there where either a game's overtime where they lose, or another team's trailing back when they're taking the lead.
I think as far as Bruce Cassidy goes, I think he's doing a good job. Injuries do happen. He's got to find a way to coach through them. I thought veteran leadership was actually really important in that Columbus game. Bruins are down 2-0, and Z0NE doesn't fight very often. He dropped the gloves, tried to get his guys going. Fortunately, they went down 3-0, but I think that kind of energized that team to get them back to a 3-3 game.
Definitely. You saw him kind of tilt the ice after that. You saw a lot of momentum go back to the Bruins' way, and it's awesome to see leadership step up like that when you need it.
Yeah. We mentioned Danton Heinen scored his first two NHL goals. Actually, the only two. I think it was the only 2 goals in the games against San Jose Shark. What do you think of this young guy?
I think he's good. I think he's pushing for a roster spot. It definitely And I think it brings out the best in Frank Vetrano, having a guy like this come up and seeing his value, and then he's like, wow, I need to compete for my job. And I think it's good to have that compete within the locker room. I think it makes your team better. I think it makes everyone better as a player. I like Heinen. He had a good year in Providence last year. Can score the puck. Yeah, he's a good player.
Danton Heinen, I think last year he made the team out of camp. It was probably too soon for him. Wasn't ready. Struggled to find a point. But this season, in the games he has played, he's played well. In the Colorado game, when the Bruins didn't look so good, they ended up making a closer game than it actually was. Danton Heinen kind of started that comeback attempt for them. 2 goals against San Jose, and they weren't the prettiest of goals, but it's going to the front of the net, and sometimes the puck just finds you. One came off the end boards back to him, and the other one just goaltending mistake, drop puck on shorthanded on a David Backes shot, and he was able to bang home a wide open rebound.
All right. So we're mentioning Danton Heinen, Charlie McAvoy, Andre Zbork, these young kids. And Pashnak's up there with a young but talented. What do you think of this young roster here? I know there's a bunch of up and downs with Providence and making it up to Bruins. A lot of IRs going on the list. Showing the potential they have, playing in the NHL level. What are your thoughts, like, as a whole, like, not just one individual player, like do you see a good future with this Boston Bruins team?
Yeah, I think there's a good mix of players there. Being a lifelong Bruins fan, I've always wanted to see, like, young kids come up and play. Like, last year when I was watching games, like, I saw Toronto and what they did with their kids, and I was wishing so bad for the Bruins to have something like that. So I was in favor of the Bruins having the kids come up, the Anders Bjorks, the Jake DeBrusks, Carlo's young, McAvoy. It gets me excited. I like seeing them come in, and I think you can blend them well with the core you have and the veterans. So like the Charas, the Bergerons, the Backes, the Marchand. Marchand stepped up into a veteran role this year. He would never admit it, but he's still the jokester in the room, the young kid. But he has a veteran role that he needs to fill this year with these young kids. And I think if you get them all together, you get them all healthy, I think you got a good blend there. I think definitely something to work around.
Yeah, like Mike just said, they have a good mix of established NHL veterans and young talent coming in. So it's about putting people in opportunities to succeed. Maybe not overdoing it with some players. Figuring out what their role is, and the players are going to play within themselves. Tim Schaller coming up top 6, playing in the top 6 against Columbus. That's good for a game. Probably not sustainable. He's more of a penalty killing 3rd, 4th line type of player. But in spots you can use that. But Anders Bjork, getting that kid some confidence. Maybe not overdoing it with him, so he feels comfortable in his top 6 role, because that is what he projects to be.
Going off that, I think that's a good coaching move. It speaks to the kids. It says, hey, you don't want to play, we'll get someone in there that can.
Yeah.
Like Anders Bjork, you were given every opportunity to succeed at this level. We have you with Bergeron and Marchand. You don't want to skate? See you later. You're going down. Someone's coming up to fill that. So I think it's a good message that he sends. No one's safe, and they're going to do everything they can to play at a high level and compete. Yeah,
if you're not showing the potential of playing in the NHL level, even with those top players that you mentioned, you're just going to get cut back and going to climb back up the ladder, like both of you said.
Bruce Cassidy is not a player's coach. He's going to do whatever he thinks is right for his hockey team. He's not somebody that cares about egos. It's kind of random out of Washington, but I like this change of pace as far as how he's managing the roster in game.
I totally agree. I like that he doesn't have a favorite, unlike some other coaches around the NHL and GMs too. Sometimes that can happen. Going forward, we mentioned that Tuukka Rask had a collision or a concussion in practice. Didn't make that game. What do you think of Tuukka Rask so far in this month as a starter goalie? I know he's playing one more game than his backup goalie, but so far in this games that have been played total. But
I think the best game we saw Tuukka Rask play was was it the San Jose game? It was either the San Jose or the LA Kings game.
LA Kings was.
Yeah. He made like 36 saves. I think we saw Tuukka at his finest then. And then Columbus, he got down too early, but he made some big saves to keep him in that game. There was a Panarin breakaway that kept him in that game. I mean, it's tough when they're giving up there's a lot of odd man, power play advantages this year, so it's tough for them. It's tough for goaltenders. The D has been fairly decent in front of them. Torrey Krug is having a real tough start to the season. I think he's like a -10 or -9.
He had that bad icing call
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
overtime against LA. It was a good face-off win in goal for the Kings, but Torrey Krug, you can't ice the puck in 3-on-3 in overtime.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you could be the greatest goalie in the world, but if you don't have the defense in front of you that are constantly giving pucks away up the middle in your own zone, I mean, you don't have much of a shot.
Yeah, he's not playing like a top 10 goalie in this league right now. Eventually, I think that is going to come, hopefully sooner rather than later. The Vegas Knights, tough team for them to play tonight, so it'll be an interesting setup there. They owe them one, losing in Vegas.
speaking of the Golden Knights, they're doing pretty well as a brand new organization. I obviously had no big confidence in them. It's a brand new team, you know. I just felt like they just needed to break in, being part of the NHL. But they're kind of impressing me lately. I don't know if they've been impressing you so far.
Oh, for sure. I mean, anytime an expansion team starts out 8-1, they've dropped the last two. They're 8-3 now, but I mean, they're definitely making headlines. I know they're on their fourth goalie in 11 games, though.
Yeah.
They've gotten devastated by injury at the goalie end, so. Like Quinn said, they owe him one, so this is a big avenge game, so I'm interested to see how they come out tonight. I mean, they should have a little bit of a fire under their butt, if you ask me. I mean, it was tough losing to them, and no one likes losing to the expansion team, so time to step up.
Yeah.
Bruins going to have the 2 points tonight. Vegas lost on Tuesday night. They're up 4-2 on the Rangers, ended up losing 6-4. Vegas is on the road for back-to-backs. Bruins need to get on them early. I think you'll see Vegas is a young team. They do have veterans on it, but it's going to be. I think they'll start coming back down more to earth. They're a lot better than I thought they would be. I did not think they would have 20 wins this year. They're well on pace to beat that, but we'll have to see if they can sustain their success.
Just going off that, Vegas. This is their third game in 4 nights, and the Bruins have had 3 nights off. So this is no excuses. You should have this one tonight.
Yeah. There was some sort of stat I read recently when a new team recently came in, like probably the 90s, or was it the Atlanta Thrashers?
They were pretty awful as expansion team.
Yeah,
as was Ottawa.
Yeah, there was like a stat. There was like a stat that said like won like 7
like 14
games
or something.
14
I think
games
the Capitals hold the record. They had the worst record ever as an expansion franchise. I think they only had 9 wins.
Yeah. So obviously I don't have the schedule with me, but once this gets up on, I'll make sure we got the second half of the schedule. So on the tonight is obviously the Las Vegas Knights, but for some reason
Same genre.
Yeah, same genre. I don't have the first page, but we got the Kings on the 16th at 10:30, which is away in the West Coast, and then you got the San Jose. Then they're traveling to San Jose at 10:30, and then they come back to the Northeast or East Coast and play New Jersey at 7, which is in New Jersey.
Penguins, Black Friday.
And then they play the Penguins
Love
on
that Black Friday game.
Black Friday.
Awesome.
Matinee.
So that'll be a fun game to watch. Usually it is a 1:00 game, afternoon. Always a good time on Black Friday. I stay away from the malls and stores and stuff.
Yeah, wait for Cyber Monday.
Yeah. I like to do online shopping. So before we sign off, I do want to take a look at the standings for the overall league. So just games are played. so far the most games have played is 13. But Tampa Bay Lightnings are in first in the league, following St. Louis, then following the Kings. New Jersey's up there, then Vegas, and then just going down and down. What do you think of the top teams so far? Just going around the league, who's impressed you so far?
The Tampa Bay Lightning have been very impressive so far. I think they're the team to beat in the East easily. But that being said, I think the Bruins have they've had the fewest games played in the league.
They only
They've
played
only
10
played 10 games. So
yeah.
if anything, there's an advantage there. So you can build on that. But there's nothing to be discouraged about. I mean, Montreal's off to an atrocious start. Washington hasn't got off to the best start. I think it's an 82-game season.
It's only been 1 month.
Yeah, so I think the Vegas Golden Knights are pretenders. You're going to see them come back down to earth. I mean, they've just lost the last two. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And I think Toronto's going to stay the course. I think they're going to be the team to beat in the East, and I think the Bruins can compete if they pick up some points here. Which they have been doing. They've been getting points in games, and you can't complain about that.
Yeah, I totally have faith in my Bruins, and there's no reason why they can't make another playoff run again.
You can't
after having a drought.
You can't guarantee a playoff spot in October, but you can certainly lose it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Bruins are still in the thick of it. The Tampa Bay team, they're a wagon. They're outstanding. Most prolific offense in the league. Edmonton and Pittsburgh. Edmonton's off to a bad start, and then Pittsburgh, just some bad losses in there, pretty inconsistent. So it'll be interesting to see if they can turn it around. But back-to-back Stanley Cups, they played more hockey than anybody.
Speaking of, just before we go, speaking of like Edmonton like falling down a cliff in the first month, like Connor McDavid's not even in the top five for number one player stats so far this season.
He's not even in the top 20.
Yeah, he's like at 47 or 48.
He's still a point-a-game player. There's a lot of people ahead of him that are come back down to earth that aren't going to sustain
exactly. And if you look, him and Crosby are side by side. Those are the two I expect to finish at the top at the end of the season.
Yeah, Ovechkin's going to score 30 goals, but he had 7 goals in the first 2 games. He has 10.
He'll hang around the top 20.
Steven Stamkos is number 1 so far this month.
That could stay the course. That's a good team and a gifted goal scorer.
It is, yeah, he's a gifted.
Kucherov.
I'm glad he's in health, too.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's in health. Well, that's it for tonight's episode. James Quinn, Mike Payne, I'm so happy you came again, like always. So that's another episode of the Neutral Zone. So go Pats, go Celtics, and go Bruins. And have a good week and weekend, folks.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, my hat's blue and red, but my jersey's all black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. I'm from a town where it's sports over everything. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. It's Red Sox all summer, but the winter it's black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.